Breaking into the music business is a unique journey for everyone, but trust, it's the love of the music and the culture that's the connecting tie. These are the untold stories of how Canada's most prominent Black entertainment professionals got started in an industry that never sleeps. I'm Gemini, and welcome to the Amplify Podcast. Knowing if you're doing the right thing can be challenging when you're trying to figure out who you are and where you fit in the entertainment industry. But how do you know if you've picked the right career? Should you switch it up if the work isn't getting you closer to your dream job? And how do you avoid making the wrong decisions? While it may be easy to look back on our lives and think, I wish I had done that or I wish I had tried this, DJ Four Corners has no regrets.
I don't believe in regrets. I think that every choice that we make is the best choice that we have with the information that we have at that time. And I'm not really an emotional decision maker. Like, I'm a very rational person. I have emotions, not a robot. But I make decisions based on weighing the pros and cons. I make these lists in my head that, make sense to me. And for that reason, no regrets.
Honey Jam founder Ebony Rowe has the battle scars to prove that the road to success is paved with bumps and bruises. And yes, opportunities.
I could definitely have done a lot of things better or differently in my personal life, in friendships, in relationships, in family situations. But you would have needed to have a crystal ball because at the time things are happening, you don't know what the outcome is. You may not even know what your options are. You just know that you need to trying to achieve this thing, and you're not thinking about the fallout. All of this stuff was happening at a different time before the internet. I can't stress enough how different it was then and how much easier it is to get information, to find out that you're not alone and that there are millions of people that are struggling with certain things, all the different self-help things that you can look up on YouTube and Google and so on. So that makes a huge difference than when you might feel you're just in this box and there's nobody to look to and you've got to figure it out. And so you might make some mistakes along the way.
But sometimes the best opportunities are also disguised as the most challenging ones. And that can often make your decision making that much harder, like it did for Randy Phipps, principal of RP Communications. But that experience will also make you stronger.
None. I think every choice brings you to where you need to be. And even a lot of the negative things that happened, it had to happen the way it did to bring you to where you are. When I left my agency, which was a very difficult decision I had to make, my boss was not happy with that. And we didn't end on the best terms because she was unhappy about it. I was unhappy at the time, and it was kind of a bit of a breakup, I would say. And I think at the time it was like really hard, super painful. I'm like, why does this have to be so difficult? Why can't the transition be easier? But I feel like it had to happen the way it did. And the level that we were at pushed me to do better. Because I feel like if it was a bit more amicable, I would have kind of stayed lower. But the fact that it wasn't, it kind of pushed me and gave me like a bigger drive for success to like make sure to make this work, because that was a great opportunity that I walked away from. So in the moment, it was hard and tough and painful. And I thought, why couldn't it have been easier? But I'm glad it happened the way it did at the level and intensity that it did, because I feel like if it wasn't like that, and if it was too like easy, I wouldn't be sitting here now.
That's why it's essential to figure out what you're best at and allow yourself the opportunity to do it. Jermaine Clayton, president of Awesome Productions, knows this all too well. He says that figuring this out is the key to moving forward.
I wish I started this sooner. I wish I figured out what I wanted to do as a manager. I think a lot of the time, I look at a manager similar to a lawyer, and maybe that's just because I know both of those worlds, but great managers understand where they specialize. Like, what do you bring to the table? Yes, you have to look at a lot of areas and aspects, but every manager has one specialty that's what they jump into. Some of them are marketing geniuses. Some of them are great accountants. Some of them have a backing in law. Some of them can put on a show. Like, they can literally put the show together themselves. I had to figure out that mine was business development. I'm all about building a brand around clients and then going out and literally making that my goal. Talking to individuals and making them believe that this brand is bigger than what they're seeing today. I didn't realize that until, I don't know, maybe 3 years ago, 3, 4. Because for the longest time, I thought it was just, okay, get on the road, make sure the client gets paid, have fun, party, whatever. But that's not what my specialty was. And figuring that out has made me more comfortable in my business and has made clients much happier because they know, oh, this is what we're going to do. And now that I've gotten into that rotation, it's made things a lot better.
And moving forward nonstop, according to advanced publicist Jamelia Campbell, is the key to getting you through the tough spots.
Fall down, you just keep going. Like, there's no time to fall and flail around and figure it out. Like, you just got to keep going. Like, I think I was just raised in understanding the music industry is 24/7. It never sleeps. There's so much going on. It's busy, 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 busy. So I think I entered it with this mentality. So whenever I kind of faced adversity, it was kind of just figuring out if there was a structure and a system to, address it, some sort of framework. If not, you complain to your friends, you move on, you kind of just eat it. You just kind of just be like, okay, I clocked it. I understand that maybe that's who you are. That's what the situation is. And you just keep that in the back of your mind. And maybe it's a story for the bar, who knows? Or maybe someone else has had that experience, who knows? But you kind of just keep moving forward. It's kind of just figuring out how to not let that mess up the rest of your day, your time, your week, your career, your campaign, and keep moving forward.
So, can you really have it all with a no days off mentality? DJ Lissa Monet says you can have it all, but you will have to sacrifice that time.
No days off, no days off. You have to hustle, you have to grind, you have to be on whatever the pulse is, 24/7, 365. I would stay up hours listening to music, just finding the newest shit, finding the newest artists and trying to either break them or just put friends on so that way I could play them in the club and people would know who they are. And it's all time consuming. I've missed a lot of family, events and moments. I've missed parties, I've missed friends' birthdays. And I think that's one of the things. I mean, now that we have more entrepreneurs, people understand that. But I think that was the one thing that I learned very, very early was that, it's time consuming. And if it's worth it enough to you, then you got to sacrifice the time.
As for the many women who struggle to have a work-life balance, Ebony believes you just can't have it all.
I told you that there was a part of me that was naive. And I try to not be. I don't believe you can have it all. You have to make a choice. You have to make sacrifices. You have to juggle. It's not easy. I've not met one person for whom it is easy. Even people who have money to have staff and nannies and chauffeurs and all of that. Because if you have all of that, then you're missing quality time with your child. If you're not bathing your child and doing homework with them and doing those types of things. So each person has to decide within themselves, what is the life that you want? What are the sacrifices that you're willing to make? What do you need for these things to happen? And each person has to do that for themselves. And the type of contribution that I can make is to be real. And so I didn't have someone to ask, how do you do this, right? Like when you're a pioneer in something, it's like, you're figuring it out and making it up as you go along. And so if I can help someone by sharing my experience to maybe not have a roadblock or a hurdle or a way to avoid it, you know? But each of us has our own responsibility to figure these things out. And I think that through the pandemic, a lot of companies have become aware of the time, how important the time is for human beings to be with their offspring and to have some balance in their lives with all the mental health issues that have come out of it as well. There's a lot more sensitivity. So I think of all of the times in the world, this is the best time to advocate and perhaps get some concessions, allowances, change to happen around those things. But I don't know if the utopian idea of having it all, but you define your all. You define it.
Long hours and late nights make it difficult for men and women to be the parents, friends, or family members they want to be. According to Jamelia, for the most part, work-life balance doesn't exist.
That's something that we should all strive for. I don't know a lot of people that have that, to be honest. When I look at like my colleagues, whatever, like it is definitely 75-25 work. Like work gets a lot of you when you're working in this industry, and I think it's really interesting, especially when it comes to women. I think I don't see a lot of women who are in levels of executive leadership, positions of power. A lot of them that have a lot of that have families. You know, you're giving your nights and your weekends and your hours. Your phone's always buzzing to this job, to this career. A lot of women are single. A lot of women don't have the families. I know a couple. I know one or two. Shout out Carrie Riley. But for the most part, it just doesn't really exist. And so for work-life balance, you just try for the most part. I know a lot of people that have like two phones, so they'll put like my work phones off, and now this is my phone, my personal life. I couldn't do that because I would 100% lose the second phone. I would lose the one phone that I have right now. So two phones is just not happening. But I just try, at a certain time, I would like to say I try and shut off. But if you have a priority project or an emergency, someone calls you at 10 p.m., you're working. Like, it just kind of is what it is. But for the most part, you just try and be like, okay, my evenings are mine, my weekends are mine. But when Rolling Loud's happening on the weekend, you have festivals, if things happening, like you kind of just go where work is. So you kind of just try and do as best as you possibly can.
Every dream has a price. For media personality Jesse Jones, that can range from not getting married to not being a parent.
Where is this advanced interview going? Like, are we gonna unpack? Like, no, I'm saying that jokingly because I'm like, yeah, I've been very passionate about like my desires and like dreams, and so like, yeah, maybe it's impacted the fact that like I haven't done the kids thing or haven't done the marriage thing like the way friends of mine have. But like we have conversations sometimes where they're like, yo, I love that you're able to see your dreams come out. And I'm not saying that having kids doesn't allow you to do that, but I'm like, yeah, that's impacted some decisions for me on a whole other side of life where I've been like, I want to continue to be able to go down this path and do these things. So yeah, maybe, but ultimately I think like life is about experiences. And we're all having experiences. And if we're happy with those experiences at the end of the day, then I think that's great. If we're not, then we all have choices we can make, And so it's not about, did this person go the right way or whatever. I feel like I'm living in my truth. That's what I want to do. And that's going to evolve, it's going to evolve. And I'm happy to let it evolve. I hope I have a lot of time for it to just keep evolving, because that's what life is. I've seen what happens when, life transitions. So I'm on this ride and like, I think, what's been great about the past 5 years is professionally and personally, I've just got really comfortable with sharing that and actually like dialing into it. And that's a very, freed up place to be. It's taken time though. It takes a lot of time, but I like where things are right now.
And sometimes the sacrifice you make can push you so hard it physically hurts.
There was a time I had a wedding, and prior to that wedding, I had like 3 or 4 gigs night before. So I was going. And I remember getting ready for this wedding, feeling fine, whatever, hop in the shower, Hola Fresh, get out, and next thing you know, I wake up and it's pitch black. I'm on my bathroom floor, and only to realize that like I literally passed out. Obviously didn't get to the wedding in time. My phone's blowing up, and I think that was the moment where I realized like you can't do this the way that you've been doing it before.
Hashtag no days off might look good on social media, but as DJ Lissa Monet learned, it can also cost you your health. Knowing just when to slow down, reflect, and reset is critical. Just ask Jermaine.
At that point, I was in a transition phase between one company and another company. So I was moving from my first business partner that I had with the next business partner that I wanted to have. And in that moment, I started thinking about, okay, that same thing that I'm talking about. Some things are just not a fit. So I was thinking, what didn't work? What was I spending too much time doing? And what needs to change so that I don't repeat the same thing? Even thinking about it right now, I'm a little choked up because I had zero clue. And for the first time in my life, I doubted myself. Like I was saying, confidence has always been something. That was that one period where I went, are you sure? Is this really what you want to do? Because you haven't figured this out yet. What's wrong? And I don't know how. Definitely friends, definitely family, but I made it through. And that was that change for me. It was the right clients that came into my life. It was the right business partner that came into my life. And realizing how I played a role within both of their spaces, I think that's what really set things off for me. I didn't think about that importance. That was actually something that I learned after getting back on track. I realized that I was in a really dark place before that, and I needed to figure out something or a tool to help me counter that if it should ever arise again. And so I started working out, and I started running. Kind of funny that I started running. But yeah, I started doing long distance running. I used to do that in school when I was growing up. So I got back into that, started running half marathons, things like that, something to just escape everything, escape what was in my present. And that's kind of why I was saying it's funny that I was running. I just realized that the joke was mentally and not into this room. But it's funny that I chose running because I needed to escape. And when I do a run, I have a starting point. I just go. I don't time myself. I don't say, oh, we have to do this today. It's literally just, okay, let's go. But the important part is to get back to where I started. So whenever I finish, it's almost like, all right, this is over, this is done, get back to work. And that's become a great source for me. And that's been the way that I've kind of had that self-care.
Life is full of sacrifices and hard choices, but if you're living in your purpose and are passionate about what you're doing, you'll be able to find the blessings in it, as Jesse has.
I think it's important to, I mean, I have the luxury of like, I don't have, kids running around. So if I want to just like take, just remove myself from a space, I can kind of do that. So I understand like, it's not as easy, but I know like what works for me. So, being in certain spaces and places and understanding what that does for me, understanding what pausing does and removing myself from certain things so that I can think clearly about them. That's therapy, in terms of like being able to know those things work, right? So like, I love what nature does for me. I love what it does. Like being out there and just being able to kind of like be in your own thoughts. I love that. So I lean into that. And then when things aren't working for me, I lean out of them. Like we evolve, right? And I think just being rolling with that and trying not to struggle as much with it has been super helpful. But people used to say, and people still say, it's hairy-fairy when you talk about passion and being passionate about what you wake up for every day. But we've gone through a crazy time the past 3 years, right? We've lived through a pandemic. People are worried about their lives and livelihood and like survival. People had a lot of time to think about what they were spending their time on. And so, if you can be passionate about it and figure out a way to make it your life's work, when those times come, you'll have something to ride for. So I feel blessed that I was given experiences that allow me to tap into that. It's a blessing, and I'll never take it for granted, and I'm continuing to just evolve every day, and I'm okay with that.
Making tough decisions is hard, but making a success of them is even harder. Is it ever okay to compromise your values or turn a blind eye? Tune in to next week's episode of Amplify to find out.